Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you all are doing well. This is gonna be the lab number 5 from HTTP Request Smuggling vulnerability module. And today we are gonna see how we can exploit HTTP Request Smuggling vulnerability to reveal front-end request rewriting. What is request rewriting? And specifically about front-end. So what happened a lot of time once the user sent the request, that request is received by the front-end server, and the front-end server will add some HTTP request headers, and those headers basically used for sometimes logging and monitoring purpose, or sometime for other attributes and information about the user who is trying to access the service. So this is what we are gonna see here, front-end request rewriting. So whatever request you will send, somewhere the front-end server will rewrite the request or add some attributes within the request headers. Now the description of the lab is saying this lab involves a front-end and back-end server, and the front-end server does not support chunked encoding. That means the front-end server will support content length, and maybe the back-end server will receive transfer encoding. We need to check that in a moment. Now there is an admin panel @/admin, but it's only accessible to people with the IP address of localhost 127.0.0.1. The front-end server adds an HTTP header to incoming requests containing their IP addresses. So it is similar to X forwarded for. This X forwarded for we have encountered in different vulnerability modules. These are the non-standard HTTP headers, and if you want, you can basically create some custom HTTP request headers. Fine. So it's saying that the front-end server add an HTTP header to incoming requests containing their IP addresses, and it is similar to X forwarded for header but has a different name. Now to solve the lab, we need to smuggle a request to the backend server that reveals the header that is added by the front-end server, then smuggled a request to the backend server that includes the added header and accesses the admin panel, and at last we need to delete the Carlos user. So now here we have the lab, and you can see all the requests go through the proxy, burp proxy. Fine. So this is the web root request, and I'm going to send this request to the repeater. And the first and foremost thing is we will check whether the front-end server is supporting content length or not, because as the lab description is saying, the front-end server does not support chunked encoding. Okay, so that means the content length. So I don't need all of this, and what I need is content type, which is gonna be application / x www form URL encoded, and then we need content length, right? Okay, and I will mention the content length later. The next header is gonna be transfer encoding. Okay, and the value of it is chunked, CHU. Fine. Now once we check CLTE vulnerability and the front-end server is supporting the content length, so 0, and the chunk 0 means message ends here. Then we start another request. Let's say it's a GET request and going to anywhere. Okay, and HTTP /1.1, and let's say any header, fake header or anything, AAA. Fine. But before sending the request, few things I need to do. The first thing is, because this request has the body section, so I would like to change the request method from get to post. Oh no, come on. Okay, I will change it by manual way. And the second thing is we need to change the request attribute, and we will downgrade the HTTP version from 2 to 1. Second thing, I will make sure that the content length does not update automatically. Okay, so uncheck it. Now, again, I go to the proxy and send a normal request to the repeater again. So now once I send the request, which is a smuggled request, and I send it, oh, wait a moment, invalid request because I forgot to mention the content length. So to check the content length, you need to highlight this content up to from 0 to the last of the header, and we do not need to add any new line trails after this header. So you can see the content length is 45, so I need to put here 45 bytes and send the request. Okay, so first request is 200, okay, and if we send, or another user send, normal user send a request, you can see 404 not found. So if you remember the first lab of CLTE, where we need to show that if we send a request to any absurd endpoint, it will say not found. Fine. So that means the front end server is interpreting content length, because if the front end server use chunked encoding, so it will go and see the chunk size, which is 0, and it will say the message ends here. Fine. So that's it. That means the front end server is using content length. Now back to the point, I need to access admin panel. So I will say here admin and send the request. So the first request, I'm expecting 200 okay, but of course it will not give us 200 okay because the content length is now changed. And if the content length is less, it will say invalid request. If the content length is more, then it will try to read the other bytes. Okay, and if once it will not get the exact content length, it will say read timeout. So I need to manipulate or alter this one again, and as you can see, this time the content length is 42, so put 42 here, send the request 200 okay. And if we send the request another time, or the normal user will send the request to the web root, it will say 401 unauthorized. And if we scroll down, we will see here admin interface only available if logged in as an administrator, or if the request is coming from localhost 127.0.0.1. Okay. Similarly, if you come here and you try to access /admin, it will say the same thing. Fine. So that means somehow we need to show the backend server that the request is coming from localhost IP address. And how we will do that, the lab itself is giving us some clues, which is the front end request rewriting. So front end is adding some kind of non-standard HTTP header, and in that header the front end server is specifying the IP address of the client who is trying to access the service or access the endpoint. So if we get that exact custom or non-standard HTTP header and we manipulate the value from our genuine IP to 127.0.0.1, we may access the admin panel. Okay, so for that purpose we need to do few things. First of all, we need to check out some way so that we can basically read or we need to find out a way for the information disclosure, and in that information disclosure we basically see the structure of the front end server after rewriting the request coming from our side. Okay, so here you can see this is the search field. So let's see cybersec. Okay, let's search something. Okay, and you can see it is reflecting here. Now go back to the burp proxy. This is our proxy server, and you can see there is a post request, and in this post request the search term is basically in the body with a parameter search. So that is something interesting which we can try to manipulate and to create a smuggled request. So I'm just gonna do it very quickly by saying the same thing, which is search is equal to cybersec. Copy that and paste it here. Okay, and because again we are adding the body section in this request, so we need to change this get request to the post, and instead of this admin, I'm just gonna put it like this. Okay, but instead of this fake header, I would like to take these two because it is needed here. Okay, because how this request will know the content length of this, so I don't need that for now. And the content length of this part is where it goes. Okay, so the content length of this is actually 15 bytes, so I'm gonna put here 15 exactly. And one more thing, we need to also put the host header here, because without host header it will not know where to make the request. Fine. And again we need to update the content length of the first request, so it is 173 bytes. I'm gonna change it here. Now let's just send the request 200. Okay, now go back here and I'm just gonna copy it, paste it again and search. Same. Okay, we should see here some extra byte, but okay. Now the problem here is, you know what, because we put the exact length of this body section, which is search is equal to cybersec, and that's why it's showing me this one. So if you want to see rest of the data about the request, you need to manipulate this one. So I would say 150. So what happened, 15 bytes are the exact byte of this data, but after 15 bytes, whatever bytes mentioned here, if in the response it receive those bytes, it will show us here after the cybersec. Otherwise it will try to read extra bytes. If it get, okay, if it does not get, so we will get read timeout. So let's say I make it 150, send the request one more time. Okay, 200. Okay, now just paste this term here and search again, and you can see this time after cybersec we get other data. Let's do it here so that you can see in a well manner. Although here if you can see closely, you will easily understand. So this is the post request to the web root slash with this HTTP version 1. Then after that there is a request header which is X and some random characters -IP, and this is my public IP because I'm making the request. And this is what basically the lab is defining, the front-end server rewriting the request like this. So it's adding a non-standard or custom HTTP request header, and it is adding the IP of the incoming request, which is here. So let's just do it one more time. 200. Okay, and send the request one more time. So once we send the request one more time, and let's just scroll down. So if we scroll down, you can see here we get the exact thing, but in the same way. So although our purpose is solved, we wanted this particular request header. I'm gonna copy it and I'm gonna add it here, paste. What I will do here, I will say admin, and let's just put the same IP, which is this one, or anything else. Fine. And I don't need host header. And just again, I'm just gonna put it the exact byte here, which is 15. So I'm gonna take out the 0 here, send the request one time, and send the request another time. 200 okay. Let's see if there is admin panel or not. So there is no admin section. The problem here is we did not update the content length. Wait a moment. Actually it's and attribute is 1. Send the request one more time. 200 okay. Send it again. Nothing. So what we will do here is just change it to 127.0.0.1 and send the request one more time. Make sure it's unchecked. Okay, now this time it's hanging out. That means we need to update the content length, and for that purpose I'm just going to cancel the request and update the content length to 137. Send the request again. 200 okay. Send it again. Let's see. Okay, let's see if we change the method to get and update the request to 131 and send the request one time. Second time, let's see if admin is there, and yes, this time admin panel is there. Okay, so the problem here is the admin the request method, because we were using HTTP request method post. We need to use get admin panel, and if we want to access the admin panel, if we want to delete the Carlos account, we need to just access this one. So just copy it and paste it here, and we need to update again the content length, which is 159. So 159, send the request. Okay, and any user who is going to send the normal request, let's say to home, and you can see the lab is solved, because once the normal request come, and this is what request smuggling, HTTP request smuggling is. So if I try this one more time, you will see this time, because the Carlos user does not exist, send it one more time, because the Carlos user does not exist. So here you can see user deleted successfully, and this time we don't have a link to delete the Carlos user. We have just winner user left. So that's it for this video. Hope you understand it. Hope you enjoy it. If you like the content, please like, subscribe and share. I'm going to see you in the next video. Bye.